And greetings to one and all. It's another edition of On the Hash with Hatfield. I think this is now episode 24 on our account as we get closer and closer to triple digits of these. Maybe one day if they keep us around long enough, Lord willing. Glad you are tuned in wherever you are watching, whether it be through our YouTube channel on Cova Sports TV, Apple, Spotify. You can hear us there. We're on VirginiaPreps.com. We're on Facebook. We're on X. We're on Twitter. We're on IG. We're on LinkedIn. We're all over the place. And interact with us throughout the program, pre, post, and during, as we have a lot to go over with you all here as the sports football weekend is getting underway on a Thursday night with the big game on Amazon Prime, Washington, Philadelphia for first place in the NFC East. You got high school football playoff action all over the state on Friday night. Just about, I think, every game, all 24 regions among the 6 classifications taking place on Friday night under the lights. It's how it's supposed to be, Friday night lights. You've also got Saturday college football, big one in the SEC, Georgia and Tennessee, Old Dominion, James Madison, the Royal Rivalry Challenge, all kinds of great action, plus the NFL stuff on Sunday with some rivalry games like Steelers-Ravens, including Mike Tomlin at a Denby High School in Newport News, William & Mary, plus the Chiefs and Bills. Get everybody excited for the Sunday night game with Bengals-Chargers and the Monday night Texans-Cowboys. Doesn't quite have the juice that the other two games do. But let's get to what transpired to end the high school football regular season. Not a whole lot of surprises, be it statewide, be it locally in the 757, be it across Virginia. I think your best game, which we hit on during our Hats Hits IG Live special last Friday night. If you missed that, it's up on our Cova Sports TV YouTube channel. Go check it out. I think the best game was that Matoka and Dinwiddie game where Matoka had a big lead, nearly 20 points, and Dinwiddie came roaring back, and it secured the number 1 seed for Dinwiddie in its region, Region 4B. But beyond that, there weren't a whole lot of surprises, a whole lot of power ratings, eyebrow raisers. I guess, there were a couple teams that were quality squads that got left out of the playoffs, like a Monticello in 3C that went 7-3 overall. On a local front in the 757, biggest surprise was probably that of New Kent knocking off Bruton, which kept Bruton from securing a number 2 seed in its region in 2A. And now it goes to Southampton. So we'll go through the playoff brackets in our last segment of today's show. You'll hear a special guest coming up, that being Coach Alonzo Ricks Jr. of Nansemond River. But Bruton falling to New Kent in that one, 55-28. So they opened up 8-0. They lost their last 2 to Poquoson and to New Kent. We played some sound for you last week with Andy Linn and Lafayette getting the win over Poquoson 14-6. Little tease on that because we do have some special honors to hand out. And I did want to get to a little bit of my player of the year picks in the 5 districts in the 757 through the regular season. That's going to come your way a little bit later on in the show too. But let's go to one of the games that did have some implications in Region 5A, and that was in the Beach District. There was a potential scenario that could have played out where you had a 3-way tie, and that would involve the likes of Salem, Kempsville, and Cox. And a lot of people looked at the 2 big games last week in Tidewater of being Lafayette, Poquoson, Maury, Granby. Well, you had the big Keyshawn Davis fight, former Granby Comet. His comments didn't get done against Maury as they just steamrolled Granby 55-0 once Hunter Collins took that opening kickoff back, and it was off and running for Maury. We'll go over that Granby-Warwick game coming up in Region 5B that has some implications. But really the closest, hardest fought game of the night ended up being in the Beach District with Cox and Kempsville. And if you recall, they played in the playoffs a year ago. And this is what the playoffs are all about, to have dramatic, exciting finishes. And a year ago, it was Kempsville returning a block kick for a touchdown to win it in a back-and-forth tussle. 7th-seeded Chiefs moved on. 2nd-seeded Falcons at home, they were done. They were stunned. And there will be a couple of stunners coming up. If you fill out a bracket, it may not be like the NCAA March Madness tournament bracket for you, but you're trying to figure out what that upset is. And I got a couple of them I'm picking. We'll have on our VIP board on Virginia Preps. Don't want to give away all the picks. You can see mine and Coach Young, my 757 Saturday Sports Partners selections too. But let's go to what took place in the Beach District between Cox and Kempsville. Here's what Coach Tyler Noe said after his team proved victorious 16-14. It's on the hash with Hatfield.
All right, here with Cox head football coach Tyler Noe as Falcons survive a tough one here, 16-14 against the Kempsville.
Technical difficulty.
All right, here with Cox head football coach Tyler Noe as Falcons survive a tough one here, 16-14 against the Kempsville Chiefs. So they have some history with last year in the playoffs, Coach. You guys lost on that unfortunate, heartbreaking block field goal return. Tonight, though, they get a fourth, and I think it was 30-yard TD run from C.J. Spence. And you're thinking, just please recover the onside kick. I'm not sure who had it. Was it Alex Neff?
Alex Neff recovered.
There you go. So, I mean, he's the hero tonight, right?
He is that. And the safety at the beginning of the game, like you said, that turned out wonders for us. Our kids were locked in the whole week. Like you said, that playoff game didn't sit well with them last year. We treated this as a playoff game because it was. I mean, it was for seeding purposes, and going 9-1 in a season after that heartbreaking loss last year, just as kudos to all of our players and coaching staff.
Sure. I think when we spoke back in the late summer before the season on the podcast, we talked about, your defense does a really good job, fundamentally sound, disciplined. You don't have that hallmark recruit guy like Jordan Williams or Gerard Johnson, but a couple of guys tonight really shined out for you. I thought Elias filled that key interception for you. Nasir McCarter, they couldn't block him off the edge tonight. Those guys stepped up.
Yeah, they both stepped up in a big way. Nasir was the big one this week that was, remember that game a lot last year, and he wanted this game real bad, and Elias had a heck of an interception.
Yeah.
And our two edge guys, Bray Lyons and Nasir McCarter, coming off the edge, and Max Palmerton's the heart and soul of this team, and he showed it.
I want to go to Palmerton for a second and also his brother Jacob made some plays tonight too. I don't know that Max gets enough credit. He probably won't get player of the year, but my goodness, that offense for you to run the ball, quarterback, directing the ship, and then defensively he makes a bunch of key plays for you. I mean, he's as steady Eddie as there is, right?
Yeah, he controlled the offense. He had an interception late in the game that helped us. We didn't score on it, but we milked about 2 minutes off the clock, which is great. He's just that guy that we know we can go to any moment, offense, defense, or special teams if we need to.
And then to go with him in the backfield out of your triple option attack, you can go with the running game. Tyree Jeffries, a sophomore for you. We saw him burst on the scene a year ago. Tonight he finishes up with well over 130 yards rushing and that big TD to give that breathing room in the fourth quarter. What's he meant to your offense and attack?
Oh, he's huge. I mean, he runs hard every play. He gets the ball. He can make some jump cuts and get downhill. And when he's gone, he doesn't look very fast when he's going through the line, but when he cuts through there, he's gone. So, he's a great addition to our offense this year and last year too. But, being the full-time back this year, he's really put the load on his shoulders. A
couple more for you. You referenced it the week of practice, knowing what happened last year against the school, coming to their field on senior night. How much was that? Was it even something you and your staff had to say? The players your seniors take ownership of that? Or?
Yeah, we're a player-led team, and this whole week we kind of let them write the script for that. We want to talk about it a little bit, but the past it made us a better program for a better team. And we came out, really won this win tonight, and like I said, going 9-1 in the 2 seed in the playoffs is great thing for this program, this team, the seniors especially.
And the journey's not done. The story's not finished for you. You've had a really good year. You've now won 6 in a row, I think it is. You've put up 40+ in about 4 or 5 ball games. What's kind of the message as you now start a new season, the playoff journey? You're a 2 seed again. You have home field for at least 2 rounds if you're able to advance. What's kind of the feeling of this group? Because it feels like you have a lot of good elements to it, and you're still growing in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think we're playing our best ball right now. And like I tell them every day, before every game, go 1-0 this week, and that's not more true this week. We got to go 1-0 this week. Keep on going because we don't want this journey to end.
Well, the home game coming to Cox High School, either against Bayside or Deep Creek. Thanks so much. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
And it's going to be against Deep Creek for the Cox Falcons. Let us know what do you think is the most intriguing first-round playoff game across the board. We'll go through the matchups for everybody to check out. Interact with us again through IG, through Twitter, X, Hatfield Sports, 757 Sports Talk. We're on VirginiaPreps.com, LinkedIn, Facebook, and, of course, our YouTube channel at Cova Sports TV. Let us know there. So Tyler Noe's team ends up getting the number 2 seed by beating Kempsville, avenging that loss from last year in the playoffs. They wanted to deal with the Chiefs on their side of the bracket because they're in the 2 slot. Deep Creek's in the 7 slot. Bayside is the 6 at Salem the 3. Your 4-5 matchup is Indian River hosting Kempsville. That's a rematch of last year's region semifinal game that Indian River came from behind to win on its way to then knocking off top-seeded Green Run in the region championship game. Green Run's going to be playing on Dahlia Drive all the way through the region finals should they get there yet again. And then we shall see if they get their third crack at Maury in what would be 4 years in a state semifinal, or maybe somebody else if they get through and Maury was to get knocked off. You never know. Green Run is the 1 seed. They're playing host to 8-seeded Ocean Lakes, who they beat last week to close out the regular season by a count of 35-10. A couple quick more thoughts before we get to our first break here on this edition of On the Hash with Hatfield. And we'll go through some of the first-round playoff matchups again later on in the show. We've got Alonzo Ricks Jr., our special guest, head coach of Nance River, coming up. But we want to recognize our latest Chicho's Pizza 757 Football Player of the Week, and that is going to go to none other than Bethel running back Amari Pryear. What a game this young man had, did Amari Pryear, in their win that they notched over the Menchville Monarchs to close out the season. Listen to these numbers for Amari Pryear because they're pretty special. For the regular season, he finishes up with 1,515 yards, 24 touchdowns on 175 attempts. Bethel goes to 6-4 with that 57-14 win over Menchville. Ran the ball 23 times for 338 and 5 TDs. And I'm happy for him because it was really neck and neck with him and a couple other players the week that Matthew Alton of Norcom got our Chicho's Pizza Player of the Week. Matthew going to Penn State to play his college football in the Big Ten. Greyhound's going to be hosting a first-round playoff game in Region 3A. And, of course, Mr. Alton's got the best first name in the entire state, as we well know. But Pryear was very deserving of this honor at some point in the year, the way he's been playing down the stretch. And he helps Bethel get to the playoffs as a 6 seed as opposed to being in a 7 or 8 line. So kudos to him. He's our Chicho's Pizza 757 Football Player of the Week. Bright future ahead for him. I think colleges will be coming calling his direction in the months to come, again, from the class of 2026. They got a big task on their hands, getting ready to take on Nensman River and Suffolk. Warriors beat them pretty convincingly in late August in that season opener. And then speaking of great coaches, and there's so many that are deserving of Coach of the Year, I'm sure we'll have Coach Young come back out during either 757 Saturday Sports Talk or pop him up here on the Hash with Hatfield if he beats me in the picks this week. That's if and only if he beats me in the picks, which is honestly not going to happen, I don't think. But then he can gloat if he does. We did a top 5 food chain of coaches, and I know he had in no particular order. I forget his exact order, but I know he had up there Hank Sawyer of Lake Taylor. Didn't have a great year, but still 3 state titles, legendary coach. Terry McCain of Maury going for his 3rd state title this year. He had up there as well. Jeremy Blunt of Phoebus, they're going for a 4-peat. Chris Scott of Oscar Smith trying to get his 3rd state title at Oscar Smith and his 4th overall when you include the one he won at Ocean Lake several years back. And this guy who is our IL Giardino Coach of the Week. This is our final one for the season. We might do one more Chicho's Pizza 757 Football Player of the Week for the first round of the playoffs, but here it is. And it goes to none other than Andy Linn of the Lafayette Rams. What a job Andy Linn has done at the helm of Lafayette when you consider the following, ladies and gents. Lafayette, so far this season, 10-0. It's their first unbeaten 10-0 regular season since 2018. They've been very, very good. But Andy Linn now 101-3 his last 104 Bay Rivers games, and he's got a 149-22 overall record. So Andy Linn very deserving of this. His team wins at 14-6 over Poquoson, and they look like they have a great chance to go back to the state championship in Class 3. So there's our IL Giardino Coach of the Week. So there you have it, a good one there in Mr. Andy Linn of the Lafayette Rams. So interact with us. We're all over the web. You can chime in like Woodrow is on Twitter or X. Any comments, questions you may have. We are asking out there on our IG page. We'll put it up here as well. What first-round playoff game intrigues you the most across the state in Virginia High School League football? We want to hear from you. Which one is most intriguing? And we will get your thoughts on it. There it is on the screen. Interact with us, Cova Sports TV. There are some compelling first-round games. I will be honest with you all, though. I think some of the better matchups, I was telling someone today, are in the second round of the playoffs, the region semifinal round. You'll get some more evenly matched games. I think we're going to have a lot of blowouts in this quarterfinal round across the board from all the way up in Class 6 down to Class 1. It does feel like that's coming our way in the various regions and the brackets. So would not shock me one bit if we do have a 70 burger, maybe even 3 or 4 60 burgers on the board for this round of the playoffs. And we will see what happens from there if we do get an overtime or two. I think there will be a couple 7 or 8 seeds that have a great opportunity to move on to the regional semifinals. And again, there are some 1 seeds in different regions that have buys. Most of your regions are taking 8 teams. Years back, people remember when it was 4 teams. You have some really good, deserving 9-1, 8-2 teams that missed the playoffs. I know my man Jamie Frazier out there, if he's watching, former football coach in the 757, longtime assistant at Deep Creek during the D'Angelo Hall, Daryl Tapp era with David Cox. He was chiming in on one of my pages about this, that it would be better to have 6. And I totally agree with him. I think 6 is the right number than 8. I think 4 was too few. You had some really good deserving teams miss it. But definitely if your region is not of, the size of, say, Region 6B, where you have almost 20 teams, you should go to 6, give the 1 and 2 seeds buys. That's what I like in the playoffs. And we'll see if that does get changed with some of the regional directors or administrators that meet about some of this in the months and years to come. So there you have it. And we do have a couple more comments up here. Richard Asbell, always happens. Yeah, there is always some of those. Derek Folga, my man, chiming in. Thank you for tuning in, Derek. And Hampton versus Bethel, maybe one of the better games in the 757. I think he meant Nansemond River, Bethel, because Hampton has got a matchup with Denby. And if they win that, they'll play Smithfield. That could have some intrigue to it in the second round. But coming up next, you're going to hear from Nansemond River coach Alonzo Ricks Jr., 8-2 Warriors, their matchup with the Bethel Bruins. That's coming your way after we hear from some of the sponsors that make it possible for us, such as One Life Fitness and Vault. Here you go.
What is more? Is it more reps, more strength, more stamina? We say it's all of that, but it's greater than just what's in the mirror. It's about improving your mental and physical health. More is a feeling of achievement, fulfillment, confidence. It's looking better, feeling better, being better, and it's our mission to get you there, because here you are more. One Life Fitness.
At CHKD, sports medicine is more than just treating injuries. It's a whole team approach to caring for young athletes. With experienced physicians, surgeons, trainers, and rehab specialists here when kids and teens need them most. Our experts help young athletes prevent injuries too, with advanced training and conditioning programs that keep them in the game safely. CHKD Sports Medicine, where kids are more than patients and we're more than a hospital.
Back here on The Hash with Hatfield. Like, share, and subscribe to our Cova Sports TV YouTube channel wherever you are tuning in. We thank you for doing so on this particular football week as we get you closer and closer to Turkey Day, Thanksgiving, and the calendar move from November to December. It is football playoff time, which people love so much. And we have a special guest with us. He's the head football coach of the Nansemond River Warriors, 8-2 overall on this season. And they're roaring going into these playoffs here on a nice little win streak, getting ready to play host to the Bethel Bruins on Friday night. Over there at Arrowhead Stadium, we say hello and congrats. Another fine year to Coach Alonzo Ricks Jr. Coach, always fun to be in the playoffs and always great to be at home hosting a game, correct?
Good morning. Yes, sir. Always. Definitely don't count it as anything negative, man. Definitely as a blessing to be able to make it. And so many teams aspire to get there. We're here and we're excited about it.
For sure. Let's go over your football team because you've had a lot of different contributors throughout the season. We know getting out of the gates, you played the Bethel Bruins, who is your, ironically enough, playoff opponent here in a game that was going to be a key measuring stick before you went into that very challenging Southeastern District. I know you said before the Southeastern District like the SEC for football, and you beat the Bruins 46-14. You're a different team now, so are they, but you won the next game after that after the bye week. You beat Deep Creek 42-7, then took a couple L's against Oscar Smith and Kings Fork, but you've won 6 in a row since. Do you feel like your team's playing its best football? And kind of looking back on it now, it's a new season here. How would you sum up the year you've had so far?
I think productive. We've done a lot of good things. We played well, played some, great competition throughout, and the guys have just been resilient and how they responded to, everything that's been thrown our way. We're a different team, but so are they. And as you said before, hey, it's the second season. The opportunities are very slim to few now. So those opportunities that we get, we have to make sure that we capitalize on them, seize those, and make the plays we needed to be successful in the game on Friday night.
I felt one of the pivotal moments in your season, tell me if I'm wrong, was the game you won at Indian River, 28-21. You're down in that football game. And correct me if I'm wrong, your starting quarterback, Tyrell Grant, went down in that ball game. Tell me about how that one shook out for you and what it did for the confidence, the morale of the group moving forward from that victory.
Just like anything else, I can't say we practice those situations, and to have that young man miss the time he has, and then I have him, it's been rough. But the young men have been really resilient. They stuck up for one another. They played for one another, did what they were coached and taught to do. And that just brought us closer together as well, as to see one of our key contributors go down. Just made us be more hungry. And again, we played a tough Indian River team. They're going to be a tough out in 5A. But we were able to hang in there and sustain and win the game. So definitely grateful.
Now, what is the update? Is Grant on the shelf? Is he back? What's the status of him right now?
No, he's still on the shelf right now. But anything's possible. He's just not playing. He's not playing right now. So we'll see what the future holds in a short period of time, and we'll move from there.
Now, in his place, correct me if I'm wrong, you've moved Tavon Douglas from the wide receiver spot. How has he adapted in the rest of your offense, sort of complemented what he does?
They just feed off each other. It's kind of the same thing with TJ. The young men have just responded. They pick up from what's missing or maybe lacking, and guys have just been able to do different things. So we always coach the guys to kind of be universal. And they have been moving around some key parts and pieces, and they've adapted and adjusted, and we're grateful.
Let's highlight some other guys for you, Coach, that have made contributions. I know defensive, it's a number of guys flying to the football, rallying to it, getting some tackles, TFL, sacks, if you will. Interceptions, you got a couple of guys with a number of those this year. Josiah Johnson, I know, being one, and our RJ Jones for you. Rajay, I think is what his first name is. Tell us about some of those guys that have stepped up for you, be it offensively, defensively, and also special teams, which is also crucial to your success.
Those guys, I mean, like I said, the magnitude of how they played and how they responded has been really awesome. And some of those guys, like you called it for 2, 3, 4 year guys in the program, and they've responded for this year to answer the call. You talk about Josiah Johnson. Yeah, he's leading the team in our interceptions. One of the leaders in Southampton Roads. He's just a ball hawk. He come up and make a tackle, but definitely he can cover you. And RJ, I can't say it enough, man. He is one of the best safeties around in the state of Virginia. Any classification, I'll put him up there. He's got a knack for the ball. Comes down for run support. He's the leader of our defense. He's vocal, make sure he has all the checks. And the guys feed off those two on the back end. But you talk about defensively, as you asked, Xavier Gresham's having a great year. Calvin Holloway, my two linebackers, Jakari Colden and Travis Freeman, even like Nigel Greer, Anton Perez, playing out there in space. At safety, Cameron Sexton is our other corner. Then up front, Isaiah Lawrence, James Lamar, these young men, Jadon Cook, these young men have been battle tested week in and week out against some of the best, as you stated already, and have done an outstanding job. And then offensively, we talk about after the Indian River game, but Karan Madison, he's been very special. He can do so many different things outside and inside as far as being in that receiver position. Melvin Brown, 1,000-yard back this year, never wavered, man. This young man has been everything. You talk about a program guy. he is the definition of a program guy. He split time and split carries the last 2 years, and he's carried the load this year and shouldered it and has done extremely well. And to bring that up, then I have to acknowledge our offensive line. And the offensive line, we lost some key contributors from last year, but to come in this year, feet to the pedal, and those guys have been well coached and well taught, and they have utilized what's been taught and coached them to do, and they've done a good job. So yeah, we've had a lot of different cast members for us to step up and do it, and it hasn't always been every week. It's been somebody new kind of doing everything, and that's the thing that we're proud of. That's the thing that I'm excited about moving forward, that those young men know, hey, look, man, it might not have been your night, but it was somebody else. And whatever it is, we just want to continuously win, stay healthy, and move forward.
29 wins in counting and 4 seasons at the helm at Nans. Whenever Alonzo Ricks Jr., our guest here on the Hash with Hatfield, they play host to Bethel in the Region 5B quarterfinals coming up on Friday night in Suffolk. Going out there and check out a good football game between two quality teams in a really jam-packed, top-heavy region. You got the defending state champs in your region, Amari, Kings Fork, you had a hellacious battle with this year, Warwick, Granby, 2 9-1 teams in a 4-5 game. It's just a loaded region, and I'll get to your thought on that in a moment here, Coach. But something I'm not sure I've asked you before, your philosophy. A lot of coaches believe you learn a lot from a loss. Do you believe you learned more about your team in the 2 defeats you had against Oscar Smith and Kings Fork, or did you learn as much, if not more, in those 8 victories? You've had some adversity you've battled through here. What's sort of your feeling of it and view big picture here as you go into this matchup with Bethel?
I'm just taking it all in stride. Great point that you made. And I do feel you learn a lot of losses, but I also learned a lot in wins as well. You learn how to be resilient. Not all games are going to go, 80-0 or anything widespread. So sometimes you're going to be in dog fights, and that's what you find the knack of your team. You find the fight and the grit of your team. And we've had some of those games this year. Even in the widespread games that we won, we felt like, hey, we missed some opportunities, we missed some points on the board, we missed some stops defensively or special teams or whatever. So those are things that we just try to dial up. But we have learned a lot since those defeats early on against 2 solid teams that we played. And, we're just trying to continuously work on what we need to work on, hash out what we need to hash out, and hopefully, be successful moving forward.
Now, you've had some fine battles over there. Fortunately for you, you've been at home for them in the last couple of years in the regional playoffs. You beat Kickinton 18-12 in 2021, beat them 21-14 in 2022. You beat Granby last year in a little bit of a back-and-forth game, 35-20. Maury's knocked you out the past 2 years. This Bethel team, they're chomping at the bit for revenge because you beat them in game 1, and they're a different team from when you played them back in late August, early September, whenever it was. Tell me about this group and how you go about slowing down, stopping, containing, if you will, their great running back who we announced earlier in the shows, our Chicho's Pizza 757 football player of the week, and Amari Pryear. How do you go about containing him?
Just by making sure, we do our jobs up front, read our keys, laying integrity, gap responsibility, do all those things. We can't, keep looking in the backfield or taking ourselves out the equation. We can't pick a side. We just have to do our job and do what's coached and taught to do. Coach Porter does a good job, and he's been doing a good job since he's been there, as I know he would. And so those guys are going to be ready to go. But we'll make sure that we're ready as well. And we still have, 2 other days of prayer. And then Friday night, like you said, we're looking for a good game and being successful.
And be honest, I know you're not looking past this football team because it's a quality opponent, but your kids inside, and you once played the game of football, so it's like they have to be saying, we would love another crack at Kings Fork because you had them right there in that regular season encounter. Is that part of the motivation? You certainly, if you're a senior, want to continue your career, move on, win, advance, but your guys probably naturally would like another crack at a rival, potentially in a second-round game if you were to advance and they advance, right?
No comment. So I say this. Yeah, hey, that was real good, Mr. Hatfield. Look, we met Sunday. The coaches and we met Sunday, and that's one thing I just talked about. Look, I told the guys even before the game on senior night Friday, hey, look, this was all that you were guaranteed. Truthfully, you were truthfully guaranteed 10 games, whatever was on your schedule, and after that, nothing was guaranteed. And like I said, we're one of the few teams, not a few, but an abundance of teams in the Southampton Roads that I have an opportunity to make strides and play off in the playoffs. And so we find that grateful. But those young men know they better not ever let me hear those say that. We try to take care of what we need to take care of right now. take the mantra of seizing the day. That's all you have, and you can't look forward. You don't even know what might happen at 11:50. So 11:49, you can only just be careful and cautious about what's right now. So that's kind of how we take things on National Parkway, and we'll continue to move forward. And like I said, they have business to attend to with, I believe, Menchville. I think, and so we have to do the same with a good Bethel team. So, prayerfully, if we can get there, we'll talk about it. But for now, we're just going to take care of what we need to take care of moving forward to Friday.
No, listen, I appreciate the honesty. You weren't even 100% positive it was Menchville. It is Menchville for them. And so what you're telling me indirectly here is if I had said that out loud in your huddle or your locker room, I'd be running laps right now. It's pretty much what I'd be doing.
Yeah. They know, hey, look, man, that's something that like I said, that's something that we just talk about. We just try to pride ourselves on taking it, honestly, the old mantra, cliche, but I'm seriously, we truthfully say that all the time. And it starts with me. Hey, look, we only can control what we can control right now. And I can't think about Thursday. Hell, I can't think about Friday. The way the world goes and the way things are happening this day and age, the only thing you can control is right now. So that's what we pride ourselves on and try to stay focused on those things, the task at hand.
Well, let me shift it up here in our last couple of minutes. We thank you for coming on the podcast here. How about just, the best teams are the ones that are senior-led and player-driven. Tell me about what the leadership's been like after losing the last couple of years in the second round of Amari, who went on to win a state championship just this past year. I'm sure those guys have been hungry to get back to that point. What have they been like? And tell me some of those leaders, what they've done for you throughout this year, through some injuries, some close losses, some tough wins, the gritty moments, the ups and downs, if you will, going back to the summertime to now. What have they done to help this program continue to evolve and elevate its level?
Honestly, seriously, just be them. They have tried their best to lead each other, but definitely make sure that they're leading themselves individually. And then that permeates through the collection of guys in the program. My coaches, I feel like, are dynamic and awesome young men, and they do a great job. And so just holding down their segments, and it starts there. And then in the branch to team. And then, we go defensive side. It starts with their segments, and then it goes to their team. And then it just kind of just, like I said, permeates within the program. So, they lead themselves. If they need to have a conversation with each other and the coaches need to move, that's what they do. They're not afraid to hold each other and call each other out, hold each other accountable, whether it's the wrong route, whether you missed a block, whether you missed a tackle, whether you dropped the interception. Those guys just kind of feed off of it. And they don't do a lot of rah-rah. That's not them. They're just kind of just subtle, soaking in the moment each day. And they just try to press each other to continuously be better. And some days are going to be better than others. And I try to explain that to them all the time. It's like, in life, some days are going to be better than others, but when you have the opportunity to make the best of it, sure.
Absolutely. And get you on this one. Thank you for coming on again. I know you've talked about the Southeast District being so strong, and it is improving here in recent years with the playoff success. The proof is in the pudding there. And your region, I've stated it before, and I know you probably feel the same way, that 5B is about as competitive and fierce as any region across the board in the state among the 6 classifications, the 24 regions. What in your eyes, it's sort of a two-part question here, what in your eyes, A, is the common thread to why all these teams, and you being among the 8, are such at a high quality? And then B, what will it take, what will determine your team having an opportunity to be one of the last teams standing in this region?
Well, the first part of your question, I believe, is just, honestly, I think we all kind of watch each other. Obviously, with the enrollment numbers, you have no other choice but to kind of look. And, it's based on PowerPoints and this and that. So I'm pretty sure, at some point down the line, depending on whatever side street or city you're on in our region, I think at some point you're kind of seeing the scores. And even if you don't pay attention to it or just kind of dive in it, like you kind of keep up to see, okay, this might be here, this might be there, kind of stuff like that. But like I said, our region is stacked. I looked at last year and I thought the same thing, and then it turned around basketball season as well, as and I know Coach Young alluded to it as well. Like you talked about that region being one of the best in the state of Virginia. You could have put us against anybody across the 6 classifications. So it's pretty tough. And what it's going to take for us, just to stay healthy, do the small things, continuously, worry about what we need to handle on our end, do what we need to do, make sure we're taking care of the little things and making the right strides. But and then just playing our best. This time of year, great teams come to the top because they're playing at a high level. They're playing for each other and they're doing all the right things needed to sustain success. So to me, in my eyesight, that's what it would take for us to be one of the last teams standing in this gauntlet of Region 5B as well.
Should be a fun night at Nansman Parkway Arrowhead Stadium coming up on Friday as the number 3 seeded Nansman River Warriors at 8-2 overall play host to the 6 seeded visiting Bethel Bruins, who come in at 6-4 overall. Nansman River is 16-16 all time in the postseason. Coach Rick's trying to move his team to 9-2 on the year and 17-16 in its program's history in the playoffs. Thank you so much. All the best to you, and I'm sure we'll be chatting down the road.
Hey, thanks, Mr. Hatfield, as always. Appreciate you for having me, man. Definitely don't take it for granted. Thank you.
Our pleasure. That's Coach Alonzo Ricks, Jr. of the Nansman River Warriors, doing another outstanding job, 9-2. They're trying to get to on the season if they can beat Bethel for the second time this year, coming up in the regional quarterfinals on Friday night. We'll take a timeout and come back with more here on The Hash with Hatfield. Take a look at all the playoff matchups, I should say, across the board after we hear from some of the sponsors that make it possible. Stay tuned. You're watching On The Hash with Hatfield on Cova Sports TV.
After more than 50 years of innovation, AstroTurf still leads the way. The inventor of artificial turf does it all, right here in the USA. We engineer, test, manufacture, and install the world's most innovative fibers and turf technologies, with over 30,000 tracks and fields worldwide. AstroTurf, powered by Sport Group.
As a lifelong local, avid waterman, coach at Kellam High School, coach at the Virginia Rush Soccer Club, also a member at Virginia Beach National and Hanover Ridge Golf Club. The 757 is a great place to live and play. As a seasoned realtor at the Bryan Group, I know I can find you the perfect home.
Get ready for the Neptune Bowl presented by Doubletree by Hilton on November 23rd, 2024 at the Virginia Beach Sportsplex. Tailgating starts at 10 a.m. Grab your passes for just $50. Gates open at 12:30 with kickoff at 2 p.m. Advance tickets are only $20 or $25 at the gate on game day. College football only comes to Virginia Beach once a year. Visit beachsportsplex.com to learn more today and secure your spot.
And we're back here on the program, On The Hash with the Hatfield. Like, share, and subscribe to our Cova Sports TV YouTube channel for everything in the world of sports when it comes to local, high school, college, statewide. We've got you covered wall to wall. We thank you all for tuning in here on the show. Before we dive in on the playoff matchups, I do want to give you my Player of the Year picks through the regular season in the 5 districts, and also we'll give you a private school nod too. And we'll show you that private school championship. I'll give you a quick pick on those 2 Division I, Division II title games as well, so I don't leave them out. Atlantic Shores had its season come to a close last week in defeat, as you saw it go across our ticker a little earlier during the Alonzo Ricks interview. So for each of the districts, I'm going to go Beach District. A lot of good candidates. Quarterback at Green Run, Kassan Farrar is going to UConn. The running back at Salem, Willie Moore, who's one of our recent Chicho's Pizza Player of the Week recipients. I'm going to go with the wide receiver going to Virginia Tech, the Hokies from Green Run High School, Jaden Anderson. He's been balling out all year long. 20 touchdown grabs among his 49 receptions. 49 catches, 20 TDs, 1,286 yards receiving. Hard to beat what he's got going on. So he gets my Beach Player of the Year rubber stamp sticker, helmet sticker, whatever you want to call those things. Eastern District, Tell you what, love what Matthew Alton has done for the Norcom Greyhounds, but I'm going to have to go. And he also the quarterback, Jashawn Redden for Granby. But Granby loses to Maury. Maury's got a bunch of candidates, especially on defense. When you look at Ari Watford, who's going to Clemson. When you look at Carlton Smith, the linebacker who's headed to Maryland. When you look at another sack artist in Leslie Hines, who's got 15 QB takedowns, and that's going to continue to rise. By the way, underrated guy on the defensive side of the ball, going back to the beaches, Taylor Vogel of Ocean Lakes. Not a player of the year guy on my offensive side, probably defensive candidate, and he'll be up there for it next year, I think. But for the Eastern District, player of the year through 10 games, it's the reigning Class 5 state offensive player of the year, Autori Newkirk, the QB for Maury, who just continues to dazzle, completing so far 156 of 198 passes for 2,818 yards, 37 TDs, and just 2 intercepts, throwing his rushing stats, and he's hard to beat. Southeastern District, I felt going into the year, and I still do, that the best player in the district is Javon Ford, the running back at Kings Fork. His numbers aren't the glossiest, though, this year, and some of that's because their team has had some blowouts. They've spread the ball around, sort of by design. If they wanted to just force feed him the ball, he'd be the area's leading rusher, in my opinion. But you could go a lot of different ways with this. I'm going to go with the young puppet, Oscar Smith, the quarterback, Lonnie Andrews III. His teammate, Travis Johnson, getting a lot of attention, rightfully so. He missed some games. 36 catches for 610 and 10 TDs, or he might get it. You could go with 2 running backs from Smith, Brandon Nesbitt and Tajay Curtis. Nesbitt's just 23 yards rushing away from 1,000 to go with his 17 TD runs. Just a smidge ahead of Javon Ford, by the way, with 950 yards and 12 TDs on just 95 carries, which is incredible. But I'm going to go with Lonnie Andrews III. His numbers, 112 of 183 through the air for 1,888 yards, 21 TDs, 5 intercepts. But I've also been impressed with his ability to keep plays alive with his legs, and Oscar Smith going a perfect 10-0 regular season gets him the honor. So Peninsula, you say you're just going with 10-0 teams. You're going with Green Run, you're going with Maury, you're going with Oscar Smith, and it's easy to go with either Maricus Banks, the quarterback for Phoebus, Davion Roberts, the bull for Phoebus, or one of those hard-hitting defenders like Caleb Tillery, Brendan Thompson at linebacker. I think their MVP is honestly the two-way lineman, Marcus Hobson. But I'm going to go with Amari Pryear from Bethel. I think without him, Bethel would not be a 6-4 team and making the playoffs. Certainly Marcus Chapman at Hampton's darn good. Warwick's got a number of guys. I don't know if one stands out above the rest. It would be their quarterback, who just was one of our recent Chicho's Pizza 757 football player of the week recipients in Saeed Williams, but he got picked off 3 times against Phoebus. That hurt his cause there. But I'm going to go with Pryear. We gave you his numbers earlier. He's mighty dazzling. Bay Rivers District, there's not one guy to me that stands out above the rest. Kenye Martin at Smithfield's had a heck of a year with 1,573 yards rushing and 12 TDs on 202 attempts. Poquoson, much like a Phoebus, different styles of play, but a lot of their guys are spread out as far as their value goes. I'm going to go with, for Lafayette, and I know you could go with Balma Hogg or Braden Smalls, but Breon Stokes, two-way force, lineman, runs the ball, just really workhorse type of guy, and a guy that's blue collar for Andy Lynn's team. He would be my guy from the BRD. And then private school wise, again, his numbers might have looked better last year, but Chris Higgins at Atlantic Shores, who's going to William & Mary, plays both sides of the ball, means an awful lot. 51 catches this year for well over 600 yards receiving and 6 TDs. And teams were actually keying in on him this year more frequently than last year. Going back to those private school championship games, you had St. Michael the Archangel, 9-1, taking on Benedictine in Division I. Division II, it is North Cross and Blue Ridge. I'm going to go with St. Michael to win it in Division I, and I'm going to go with North Cross to do it yet again in Division II. So we'll see how right or wrong I am. Our man Will Garlick has us covered with comprehensive coverage on the private school scene for us on VirginiaPreps.com. We might get Will on the podcast if time allows him in the coming weeks to give you some thoughts on some of the best prospects he's seen and what he's watched this year on the private school side of things. But let's now do it with the time we have remaining, which is about, we'll give it about 15 minutes or so on the public school VHSL brackets, the playoff scene. What we're looking at, we'll go from Class 1 up to Class 6 as it's showing you on our screen right here. We'll get it zoomed in, hopefully, to fix this better for all of you out there to take a peek at this from Region 1A on up to the higher classifications, which is Class 6 and above. So let's take a look at it now while we have it on the screen here. Region 1A, Rappahannock is the 1 seed. They host King and Queen. You got Essex, West Point, Northampton, Middlesex, Westmoreland, Northumberland. Hardest game to call is that 4-5 matchup where Westmoreland has beaten Northumberland this year. We had Northumberland in our preseason top 10. They haven't quite lived up to the hype. They've had some leaky moments on defense. I think we're headed for another collision course of Rappahannock and Essex. And if you recall, a few weeks back, we did have on the Hash with Hatfield, the head football coach at Rappahannock, join us on the show to talk about that big win over Essex, that being Coach William West when they beat Essex 13-8 back in the middle of October. I'm not so sure they win a rematch, though Essex had some trouble defensively in its recent matchup this past weekend with Westmoreland. Actually, it's so much even defensively. They had some ball security. They didn't play a clean game, I should say. Let me rephrase that. So dust settles. I think Essex will regroup and somehow, some way win this region. Not as confident as I was beforehand. Region 1B, Alta Vista's got the bye. I like them to breeze through this bracket. Brunswick-Buffalo Gap could be an interesting semifinal. Sussex Central had the coaching change in the offseason, not the same team they've been. Going down to Region 1C, Bath County, we got a recap from this past week's when they had over Narrows from our man Rodney Young on Virginia Preps. Check it out for all you Bath County fans out there in Hot Springs. I do not think they will get through this unbeaten. I think they will take a blemish. Somebody will knock them off. Galax, if you remember last year, was in the 4-5 game and went on to win the state championship. Galax didn't win a game this year. Grace and George, with those two, are the ones I'm keying in on. They played late in the regular season, and George Wythe came roaring back and fell short in a comeback effort. I tend to like George Wythe to win that bracket. Region 1D, D as in dog. Rye Cove is the 1 seed. This is the one region in Class 1 where a 5, 6, 7, 8 seed winning is not as big a shock. I think the hardest one to win it is probably Thomas Walker as a 6 seed. Rural Retreat is not a typical 8 seed. Patrick Henry Glade Spring has had playoff success in recent years with Tyler Barrett in the trenches. They're a legit number 7 seed that we had in our preseason top 10, I think towards the bottom of it at the beginning of the year. And Grundy, a 5 seed, is not afraid of Honaker whatsoever, because if you look at their matchup this year, in fact, it was Grundy that actually beat Honaker in the regular season by a wide margin of 42-8. Yet Honaker's got the best passing attack in Class 1 if you broke it down statistically across the board and among the best in the state, any division. I would tell you that I like Rye Cove to come out of this probably over Eastside in the regional final there. As we turn the page to Class 2, Poquoson, John Marshall. Yeah, it was initially put out that Amelia was the 8th seed. Not the case. They didn't have enough players to finish the year. They played Central Lunenburg, lost it, then had to forfeit their last game to Buckingham. What do I see here? I see Poquoson easy. If it was basketball, it'd be a different story, obviously. Southampton the 2. That's where I have a 7-2 upset, folks. It'll be on the VIP board. King William, I think they can get through this game and also win a second-round game. Sorry, Bruton, you've had a great year. I don't love how you've gone into this postseason with these 2 losses back-to-back, but I do think you recover against Anton Carter, really good bruising running back for Nottoway and that squad. Lunenburg Greensville's a total toss-up, but I got Poquoson coming out of that region. Region 2B, a lot of good football teams here, pretty evenly matched across the board. 3, 6, 4, 5 games could go either way. Stewart's Draft actually beat Riverheads earlier in the season, late in the season, and then they lost to Wilson Memorial. Riverheads is not the same Riverheads they've been. Wouldn't shock me if they find a way to get to the region final against Clark County. And you could see an undefeated team fall here with Buckingham against Central Woodstock. Central Woodstock's been in the state championship game just a few years back. They've been to the state playoffs. Them and Buckingham should be a whale of a game. Got a chance to see Buckingham live against Lunenburg, and they were impressive with what they do. Will Motley and that crew, but that could go either way. Like the 1 seed in Clark County to keep it going. They might have a couple of nail biters and really have some razor-thin margins in that region to try to win it and get through. Class 2, Region C, Glenver's the 1 seed. I love what their quarterback, Brody Doyot, can do. I think they'll have no trouble getting through the first and second round games. Appomattox is used to making deep runs in the playoffs. This is not their year. They've had bigger name players like Jonathan Penix, Trey Long in the past. This team's not as loaded. Could win a first round game at Floyd County, though. Wouldn't hold it against them. New coach here for Floyd County. They had a tough loss to Radford, their Three Rivers District rival. Radford-Gretna could be a heck of a second round game. That could go either way. Dust settles. Give me Glenver. Their line of scrimmage play would worry me, though, as far as a state semi matchup with who comes out of 2D. And who comes out of 2D? A month and a half ago, I would have told you I'm not as convinced as Graham right now. I feel a lot better about Graham doing so. I think they get by Lee with no trouble. Second round game against Lebanon would be dicey because they trailed them at halftime this year before they had about a dozen sacks in that game to pull away. Virginia High, though, is no picnic for Lebanon. That is a coin flip game. Ridgeview, Tazewell, they actually have met the last 2 years in the playoffs. Tazewell won it last year. Ridgeview won it in 2022. Ryan O'Quinn, it's the swan song for him. He's one of the best quarterbacks. Rocking the blue, not for him, but rocking the blue for Ridgeview. Sorry, I'm just joking. He's a really good quarterback, and Ridgeview could be dangerous. And Union Gate City's not an easy game for Union, who got knocked out a couple years ago. Gate City's got one of the better ball carriers in the state that you have to watch out for. Walker Hillman, he can put up some big numbers, although Union bottled him up to an extent in their regular season encounter, held him to under 70 yards rushing, I think it was. I think it's Graham and Union in the end. And in the end, I don't think Graham will lose. They played their home games in West Virginia, by the way, for folks that don't know. Interesting. In Bluefield. But, would not stun me if the Bears, even at 7-3, would be 9-3 by that point if they advanced. Did pull it off, though, because there's no fear factor, and they know they can play with Graham and possibly beat them because they were very close the last time they met in the regular season, which was back in early to mid-September. Let's go to Class 3. Lafayette, Petersburg, Norcom, Heritage, Hopewell, Tab, Colonial Heights, New Kent. It's so strange not to see Lake Taylor in this playoff bracket. I think Lafayette's going to cruise this, but I will caution people this one thing. In Colonial Heights, New Kent, by the way, that's your best first-round game in terms of competitiveness, closeness. It was a 1-point close whisker for Colonial Heights. Don't be surprised if it goes the other way this time, though Colonial Heights has the home field. Norcom physically has the talent, the bodies, the size, the athleticism to give Lafayette fits, even at Warner, as great as Lafayette has been. So I would caution Lafayette this. Don't take Norcom lightly. I don't think they will, but if you see them on Thanksgiving weekend, the Greyhounds, they have a player in Alton who's electric and some other guys that can make some things happen. Don't sleep on them because it will not shock me if that game is close. And Norcom could get some momentum here in these playoffs. They play well in this quarterfinal, prevail in the semifinal. Anthony Hawkins got a team that could start to gain some steam here. And they played in the Eastern District. And by the way, their 4 losses this year were to teams that were going into last week, all undefeated. When you look at Oscar Smith, when you look at Thomas Jefferson of Richmond, when you look at Maury and Granby. Now, Granby took the one loss to Maury last week, but that was a 7-6 game they could have easily won. So keep that in mind. 3B, Kettle Run can get it done. They really can. I'm going to pick Thomas Jefferson of Richmond here. Armstrong and Kettle Run would be a hellacious second-round game. Would look forward to that. Skyline, Brentsville. Brentsville's coming off 3 consecutive Region 3B titles under Coach Lauren White, a couple of playoff ousters at the hands of Phoebus and one last year at the expense there of Lafayette. They lost to Skyline before, and I don't know if they have enough to do it. If last year's team was this year's team, I would love their chances, but don't love them as much. I think TJ and Armstrong might have a rematch, or it could be TJ Kettle Run. You could get some really good second round and final matchups in 3B. 3C, Liberty Christian is the team to beat. As long as Gideon Davidson is upright and moving those legs forward, I don't know who's going to tackle that guy. As I mentioned, this is a really deep region. You had a 7-3 Monticello miss it. You have literally 4 7-3 teams from the 5 to 8 seeds. Turner Ashby, Coach Young has actually picked him to get picked off by Stanton. That's not me, Turner Ashby. That's Coach Young. Send all your nasty emails and nasty grams to him. Allegheny Wilson Memorial. I think Allegheny will keep it rolling there. Heritage and Rustburg is a heck of a game. And Heritage is not closed as strong as I thought they would. So I have some concern for them if they could get Liberty Christian, which is misspelled on that bracket for some reason. I didn't make that bracket. Another go in a second-round rematch from a game that was LCA's toughest regular season encounter to date. But until LCA gets tested to the wire, I got to go with them in Class 3. Region 3D, I wouldn't say you throw a blanket over all these teams, but I've said before, I'm not a total believer in Abingdon as the 1. Magna Vista, the 2, has a ton of speed. I like what they can do, but their defense worries me some. Laura Botetourt lost to Northside during the regular season. That's a tricky rematch for Jamie Harless's Cavaliers. And William Byrd, Stanton River was an overtime game that the Terriers escaped. They're the defending region champs here, not your typical 4 seed. Don't be shocked if you get a 2-4 or a 3-4 region final out of this bracket. Don't be shocked as far as the seeds go. Tend to lean with Magna Vista at this moment, but it's not a confident pick at all. Class 4, Phoebus has the bye, so does Smithfield. Phoebus is going to beat Hampton, I do believe, in the region championship game. I think Churchland and Hampton will have relatively easy games. It is good for those underclassmen, for both Denby and Warhill, to get their feet wet in this spot. And it's not Darlington Stadium. I think it's Darling Stadium. I don't know why they have Darlington there. 4B, love this region. It's one of the fiercest in the state. Tell you what, Dinwiddie, this is not a cupcake easy game for you. Powhatan's got some guys. They can score some points. This is not a breeze walkover game for them with Matt Henderson there, who's headed to Penn State. All said and done, though, Generals probably win at something like 42-20. Sam Rogers, good coach at Hanover. Again, Verano might have their hands full. Same could be said for Huguenot with Eastern View, who played them pretty close for a half, and Huguenot pulled away. They got Brett Clotterballs who's going to Virginia Tech. So you've got talent on these 5 through 8 seeds. King George Cortland could be a seatbelt game. That could be 42-38. Team with the ball last wins it. I said about a month ago I liked Huguenot to win it. I've now changed my pick to Dinwiddie to win it. Verana's sitting there probably feeling the most disrespected from me and others because they've beaten Highland Springs. Quarterback Caleb Weiss can make things happen. They have 2 other game-changing difference makers with Damari Carter at receiver, defensive back, and Jay-Sean Bull Richardson at defensive tackle. And they have really been roaring ever since that game they let slip away in double overtime to open the season against Indian River. So believe it or not, they might be built best, even better than Dinwiddie and Huguenot to dethrone a Phoebus. Might be. Problem is, I'm not sure they win a second-round game with a Huguenot. So this is a tough draw. Whoever gets out of that region is going to have some bumps and bruises, and they will have earned it because that region's a war. That is a war, and something that we're not expecting or calling for is going to happen in that region. I'm not sure that means a 5, 6, 7, or 8 wins, or if we get a double overtime game or some unexpected star rises to go with the names like your Harry Daltons, your Weishes, your Carters, your Evian Lewis's, your Markel Dabney's, your Clatterballs, your Hendersons. Somebody's going to emerge in that we're not expecting. Something unforeseen is going to take place. I'm not sure what it is, but I just sense it. I feel it in my bones. In 4C, John Champ and Tuscarora have the byes. I do feel like that this is probably a collision course. Lean with Woodgrove over Loudoun Valley. Lean with Loudoun County over Heritage. Champ lost to Tuscarora close a year ago. I feel like Champ is the better offense. Tuskegee the better defense. Let me see how they're both playing these next 2 weeks, I should say in their semifinal games going into that game potentially. I give it a slight 55-45 percentage edge to Tuskegee at the moment. But I could be swayed the other way between now and Thanksgiving weekend when we resume this in about 12, 13 days. Region 4D. Tell you what, if an 8 seed's going to pull it off in any of these regions, EC Glass is a live one here. GW Danville probably feels like Nehemiah Cable, their quarterback, and their coaching staff under Nick Anderson feel like I'm totally sleeping on them. The Eagles, who have been red hot ever since that opening loss to begin the season to Dinwiddie. I'm just not totally, much like I am at Abingdon in 3D, I'm not a super believer in them to win this region. Now, Jefferson Forest has tailed off the last couple of weeks. Sharando got a big win over Hanley, who's now got to go to Salem. Salem's got an iron will about them. They don't have the star power with your Peyton Lewis and your Chris Cole. They have Josiah Persinger, who's really good, can make some things happen in the open space with the ball in his hands. I just have a feeling that Salem's going to find a way. They tend to this time of year. And we'll see if they have to go through a GW Danville on the road and then perhaps a Sharando or Jefferson Forest on the road in that Region 4D bracket. Class 5 now. We move it up to the Green Run Ocean Lakes matchups. Go with Cox hosting Deep Creek, Salem hosting Bayside, Indian River, Kempsville. I don't see an upset here. Sorry, Andre Twine of Deep Creek, James Yeager of Ocean Lakes, John White of Bayside, or even Daryl Cherry of Kempsville. 4 or 5 is not really much an upset to me. I do think Kempsville Indian River will be the closest. I do feel like Bayside has earned a lot of respect the way they've closed the season, especially after Green Run just smacked them. In a game that was a little bit competitive early on in that game, but Bayside has closed better, and they lost a lot of guys, so give kudos to them. And Deep Creek, 5-5, but they come from the tough Southeastern District. Ocean Lakes has sort of limped to the finish line. They got off to the great start at 4-0. They've been kind of the opposite of Bayside in a sense. But I think we're going to get chalk all the way through, which means Green Run and Cox. Salem is right now the team that is dangerous with its offense. They have a lot of weaponry. We talked about this with Mark Hall on the show a couple weeks ago. When you look at Kassir Patterson, our Chicho's Pizza Player of the Week last week. Willie Moore, a recipient. Jason Scooter Williams. And what they've done offensively this year to average 43.3 points per game, if their defense gets key stops and makes tackles and plays up to its potential, they're the only one I feel like they can hang with Green Run. That even includes Indian River, who I think, early in the year we were a believer. They beat Verona, but I think some of their youth is shown, and I don't know if they have the same ability as they did last year. Now, they can prove me wrong here. I was buying all stock, and then I faded off you guys a little bit. So you go beat Kempsville soundly and go into Green Run with some belief. Now, that second-round game does have some intrigue to it. I think your best second-round games, especially when it comes to the 7-5-7 teams, would involve a potential Green Run Indian River and Maury Warwick, because they would be 1-4 matchups that were region finals a year ago. And in the case of the 5A, it was a win on the road for Indian River. And in the case of Warwick, they had Phoebus on the ropes a couple Saturdays ago at Darling Stadium, which to me still is the best regular season game I've seen in Tidewater this season. So I've got Green Run coming out of 5A. I'm curious to see by then if they are at the level to where I can make a case that they can hang with and beat who comes out of 5B. Likely to be Maury. It could be someone else like Kings Fork or Warwick, obviously. But I'm curious to see if they're at that level yet. Because right now I feel like the 5B, 3 best teams, which I would order Maury, Warwick, Kings Fork, are playing better than anybody in 5A at the moment. And that might be across the board in states. We'll go down to C and D in a moment. But Maury, Woodside, I don't see it being that close. Love what Alonzo Coley's done this year for Woodside in his first year back at the helm. Was an assistant at Phoebus for many years. Was the head coach at Kickingham for many years. They're not at the same level of Maury. Same is true for Rodney Taylor's Menchville Monarchs against Kings Fork. Nansman Bethel is the game that I think has the most potential for an upset. We heard about Grant not being healthy for Nansman. Makes you wonder. I just don't know if Bethel's defense can get enough stops in that game and make enough plays outside of Pryear running it. That would be my concern. Warwick Granby. Some people are picking Granby. Granby's had a terrific year. They're still a fun, great story with what they've done in short time under Coach Kendall Jefferson. Shout out to a lot of their guys, Amon Cuffey, Shanique Wright, Trevion Tharrington at running back and linebacker. But I think Warwick's at least 2 touchdowns better than you. Now, go prove me wrong. If your defense can make Cy Williams turn the ball over and make them one-dimensional, you could be in this one to the end at Todd Stadium in Newport News. But I feel Warwick's significantly better right now. And their defensive front is as strong as just about any. Just ask Phoebus, ask people that have played them, with Christian Corbin leading the way, Isaiah Emery, Xavier Carter at linebacker, that whole crew. Maury and Kings Fork is what I would project in the region championship. And Daryl would put the hex on me if I didn't pick Maury. So there you go. I don't want any hexes put on me just yet. Fleming, Prince George. Tom Hall's the coach at Prince George, who led Manchester to a state championship. He has turned around the Royals in quick order. If he pulls this one off, they might build a statue of him out there. I don't see them beating Fleming. Matoka, Patrick Henry, something tells me that's a close game. Tell you what, your 5C first-round matchups might be the best of any in the Class 5 level and across the board. Bird Hermitage used to be an annual showdown Thanksgiving weekend. My gracious, I go back to the days of Earl Snug Hughes and Paul Robertson and, oh my goodness, Mr. Johnson running the ball, Yaki Johnson. And then you had a Hermitage, Curtis Grant, and Derek Green, and those days of David Bedwell versus Patrick Kane. Those were some battles now. Those were some battles, people. But I think Bird pulls this one out. Bird hasn't been playing totally crisp football, but their defense can still rise to the occasion. And they have some guys led by Jason Wright at quarterback that can rise to the occasion. Midlothian, Louisa, Coach Young and I differ on this game. I'm going with the Lions here. I've been all on board with Louisa here, and I think Louisa is a dangerous live semifinal team, even on the road. But Matoka Fleming could be a really, really interesting region final if we get it. So could Bird Fleming. A lot of different things could come out of that region. Region 5D, as in dog. Riverbend's got the bye. Something tells me here we're going to get a Briarwood-Stonebridge matchup. And Briarwoods finally conquers and squashes its demons and slays the dragon in Stonebridge. Now, Stonebridge lost to Light Ridge this year. Independence lost to Massaponax this year. It's the only win for Massaponax. So you get a couple of rematches in the quarterfinal round that I would not be surprised if one is close, one's a blowout. Still trying to figure out which is which. Light Ridge's got a guy in Al Honesty who's really, really good, by the way, catching the football, going away with Mary. That region is the unpredictable one. JoJo Thomas for Riverbend, he's a baller. Briarwoods has been nicked up late in the season, so if they're at full strength and healthy and that offensive line plays well, I like their chances to get out of it. But right now, I just don't know where their psyche is. Brady Carmichael's going to have to lead these guys and really take ownership in these big moments. But I think Briarwoods has still got it in him. Mike Burnett is an awful good coach. He's an awfully good coach that's one of the best around. He's been in state championship games before. So I'm not bailing on you guys, Falcons, but I want to see this is the time to put up, shut up time to go do it. And Riverbend is the 1 seed, one of the more surprising 1 seeds across the board in the state. I put them up there with Abingdon as a surprise. And even GW Danville is a surprise that they are a number 1 seed. Let's go to Class 6 now as we finish things up. And then I'll tell you my 6 state champions. Oscar Smith, Grassfield. Grassfield's never beaten them. Probably just happy to be in the spot. Obviously, the record's not that glossy. Same probably is said for Lansdowne and Western Branch, just happy to be here. The Western Branch is a couple years removed from a region championship when they beat Manchester. Manchester, Thomas Dale, someone's going to suffer their first loss in the opening round of the playoffs since 2013. Glen Allen, what a story. They've been under Malik Sexton, former Churchland Trucker, VSU grad, who was the assistant to Perry Jones, who's now at William & Mary, and they've had a tremendous year. Looks like an Oscar Smith Highland Springs collision course. I give the slight lean to the Tigers over to Springers, but if anybody can come up with some magic beans and pull a rabbit out of his hat, it's Lauren Johnson at Highland Springs, and with his son on defense and Brennan Johnson, the Virginia Tech commit, leading the way. I don't think they'll get overwhelmed by the Tigers, even having to go to Beard DeLong Easley Field, should they do so on Thanksgiving weekend. Region 6B. You have some really good teams, all 7-3 in your 5 through 8 slots. Patriot and Colonial Forge. Woodbridge won a Cardinal District title. Garfield just beat Patriot a couple weeks ago. But Battlefield's defense, it just is to me the overriding theme here, giving up less than 5 points per game with Binkowski and Woodson leading the way for them, for Greg Hatfield's Bobcats. No, I'm not biased or partial to Greg Hatfield. We are not going to Thanksgiving dinner together. We do have the same last name, but we are not related. I promise you we're not. Nonetheless, Battlefield, I think, comes out of there. Those 2, 3, 4 seeds all have to be on upset alert because these are not easy games, folks. They're not easy games. Class 6 region C, the Occoquan region. Now, there's been an injustice. There has been a filing for Hayfield to try to get in the playoffs here on the last day on Friday. I don't think it's going to happen. An injunction. I said injustice. An injunction has been filed. We'll see what happens if this changes the seeds for this bracket. I don't anticipate it doing so on Friday. I think what was ruled on and what has transpired is final. This region is just not as strong as it's been. Lake Braddock does have some firepower. They can get through this and pose a problem for somebody. I just don't know if they're consistent enough on both sides of the ball, Coach Doc's team, to do this without any hiccups because their scores have been pretty close lately. West Springfield, I think, holds. Fairfax got a big performance at Fairfax last week to close out the season, and I think they are dangerous. I think they hold. South County has not had a great year, but I think at 4-6, if they were to get through this first round game and play Lake Braddock, they've sort of been in years past a thorn in the side of Lake Braddock, so that could be dangerous. Your best player might be Harry Maltese right now in this bracket for Fairfax, who last week had 4 touchdowns, 195 yards rushing against Alexandria City. I could see a Fairfax Lake Braddock region championship would give Lake Braddock the nod. They haven't probably played their best football, so Coach Doc is maybe banking on that in an effort to get back to the state semis. Remember, they lost to Highland Springs last year, whereas Freedom of Woodbridge beat Madison. And speaking of Madison, they now become the favorite in Class 6. They certainly do in my eyes. They have so many guys at every layer of their defense that makes plays. Not a lot of fanfare limelight on them. They're just workmanlike. Love what they do with nicely running the ball for them. I think they will move past Chantilly rather nicely. Washington Liberty, talk about an underrated 10-0. I mean, outside of Arlington, people can't name 5 guys on this team. They have really, really sparked some interest of mine to see if they can keep this thing going, to see Madison come Thanksgiving weekend and play for a championship. I think they take down Yorktown. Westfield as a 4 seed. Keep an eye on them. Troy Lucas on defense. You've got Duda and Morin on offense, running the ball, catching it. They did play Madison better than anybody else in the regular season, so they are chomping at the bit, much like I tried to bait Alonzo Ricks earlier in the show with Kings Fork. They're chomping at a bit at a second act at Madison. They won another crack at Madison. We'll see. Sometimes you get that second crack, and it's, maybe you shouldn't be careful what you wish for, but we'll see if they get it. Madison, I think, comes out of that region. And as far as the state playoffs go, as far as the 6 champions, right now, as of November 14th, 15th, at 2100 hours, here's what I'll give you. And this will be played back, I'm sure, in locker rooms and bulletin board material that I'm hating and doubting people. I'll go with Madison in Class 6, assuming Hatfield doesn't all of a sudden get in the bracket. Madison in Class 6, Maury in Class 5, Phoebus in Class 4, Liberty Christian in Class 3, Graham in Class 2, and Alta Vista in Class 1. Those are your 6 champions, and we'll see if it comes to fruition or not. Thank you, Gregory, for checking us out, watching, interacting with us on Facebook. All you folks out there, keep it tuned. We'll be back with maybe our IG Live special late Friday night into Saturday morning around the midnight-ish hour after the Hats hits. Might be our last edition of the season because we only do it for about a round or 2 in the playoffs. 757 Saturday Sports Talk comes your way on Saturday. I believe we're going 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Big sports weekend, and enjoy all the pigskin action that's coming your way out there, ladies and gents. And we'll talk to you next time. You've been watching On the Hash with Hatfield on COVA Sports TV.